Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're tackling a huge question. How do you actually define your own self-worth?
Yeah.
We have two sources that seem, totally unrelated. One is on the psychology of online behavior, and the other details some pretty intense biological protocols for high performance.
And our mission is to show that they are, in fact, two sides of the same exact coin.
The same strategy for living.
Exactly. And that strategy, at its core, is all about building what's called an internal locus of evaluation. It means you rely on your own standards. So we're going to look at the psychological markers of that security and then the physical anchors you need to build it.
Okay, let's unpack the psychology first. We all know people who are kind of invisible online. They barely post photos, no selfies, very few updates. But how do we know that's not just, shyness? What's the difference between secure privacy and just social anxiety?
That's a great distinction. Psychology suggests it's a sign of high internal security, not avoidance. These people tend to have a high privacy orientation. They value controlling their own story.
So they don't need the external validation.
They really don't. They rely on self-validation instead of, chasing likes and comments to feel whole.
So it's about a stronger sense of self.
A very strong self-awareness, which makes them less likely to jump on every trend. They see the digital illusion for what it is, that curated perfection, and they understand social comparison theory. They actively choose peace over performance.
That ability to just ignore the noise, that's a real sign of confidence.
It absolutely is.
So if mental security is built on that foundation, how do we physically anchor that state? Our other source says you can't have mental toughness without some specific biological habits.
Right. You need tools to manage the daily grind. The homeostatic pressure is constant. The simplest tool is the circadian power-up, getting direct sunlight in your eyes, ideally in the first hour you're awake.
And what's the mechanism there? Why is that so critical?
Well, sunlight is the master signal. It hits your eye and basically resets your body's internal clock. It tells your system, okay, it's go time. And that balances your cortisol, giving you alertness when you need it.
And the source mentioned that on, like, a gloomy day, you need even more time outside.
You do. You need more time to get that same trigger.
Okay, that handles the morning. What's the next step for building resilience against all that daily stress?
Intentionally embracing discomfort. I'm talking about cold water immersion or CWI.
So just getting into cold water.
Yeah, anything below about 20 degrees Celsius, cold exposure is a powerful natural antidepressant. It triggers this huge release of dopamine and noradrenaline.
And that's where it gets really interesting. Knowing that you're building resilience by willingly shivering for, say, 3 minutes.
That voluntary stress directly translates into how you handle real-life challenges. But none of this works if you don't recover. So that brings us to the 10-3-2-1-0 sleep protocol.
Let's break that down. 10.
10 hours before bed, no more caffeine. Its half-life is incredibly long, so it's still blocking your sleep receptors hours later.
Okay, and 3.
3 hours before bed. No big meals or alcohol. Alcohol specifically just wrecks your REM sleep. Then 2 hours out, stop all mentally draining work.
And 1 hour is no screens, I assume.
Exactly. That blue light suppresses melatonin production. And finally, 0. That's the number of times you're allowed to hit the snooze button.
So when you put it all together, whether it's your online habits or your biological ones, both sources are pointing to the same thing.
They are.
Shifting away from external metrics, likes, applause, whatever, to your own internal scorecard.
And what's fascinating is that true confidence, the ability to hold your own, requires solitude, not loneliness, but the capacity to be alone with your thoughts, to find your own reality away from all the social noise. That's the hallmark of real leadership.
So we learned that emotional security often means being less visible online, and that peak performance relies on these very precise anchors like light and sleep.
It all connects.
So here's a final thought for you. If true leadership really does require that capacity for solitude, what daily habits are you consciously building to move away from being, well, an excellent sheep and toward developing your own grounded vision?